Hello and welcome back to another Flash video tutorial. This tutorial is going to be about the pencil tool and the brush tool, but for now I'm going to go ahead and get started by creating a new ActionScript 3.0 document. So once that goes ahead and loads up, I'm going to begin with the pencil tool, and that is the tool on the toolbox that looks like a pencil. So to demonstrate really quick, I'm going to go ahead and click and then draw around, and you can see now I have a line on my stage. Now, pay close attention to what I'm doing right here. Notice that this line is black, and that is because I have my stroke color as black. When you draw with a pencil, you're actually drawing a stroke. You're not drawing a shape, you're not drawing a fill, you're drawing the stroke. So it actually behaves like a stroke. So if you modify it, or you go into your selection tool, you can see it's saying this is a stroke, not a fill. Cool, I think you understand that. Going back to the pencil tool. The pencil tool has multiple options on the bottom left here under pencil mode. And I'm going to go ahead and left click and hold. Left click and hold. You see I have straighten, smooth, and ink. Now, if I use ink, ink works pretty much how you would expect the standard drawing tool to work, right? Drawing with my pencil, it's going to draw what you see on the screen. Flash goes ahead and kind of tidies it up a little bit when I'm done, but whatever you draw is pretty much what you're going to get on the stage. I'm going to press Control Z to undo all that. And I'm going to go back to another mode. I'm going to go to straighten mode. And now I'm going to draw, let's say, a Z. You notice how my lines are a little crooked, they're a little wavy, they're not straight. Well, if I go ahead and let go, bam, you see, because I'm using straighten mode, Flash has gone ahead and straightened out my lines for me, or has at least tried to straighten out my lines for me. So if I go ahead, delete that, and go back to the pencil tool, the last mode in the pencil tool is the smooth option. So if I go ahead and draw with the smooth option, you can guess what it's going to do. It's going to try and smooth. So even though these lines were pretty jagged when I drew them originally, Flash goes ahead and tries to smooth them out. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, that's not really smoothing it that much. Well, if we go underneath our properties options, you can see that smoothing, it has a number. So I can click on this number, or I can just click and drag it to the side. If I make this number larger, and by larger I mean actually make it larger, now when I go ahead and, let me delete all this, go back to my pencil tool. So now when I go ahead and draw my wavy, pointed, jagged lines, you can see it's smoothed out a lot more than it was before. If I go ahead and change this down to 0, Flash will still smooth it out a little bit, but not nearly as much as I did before. And remember though, with our selection tool, just a friendly reminder, the other way to smooth out things is to select with the selection tool, and there's a smooth option right here, and I can click, 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 and it's trying to smooth it out, even though I do have some points there, right here and here. Difference between that and the straighten tool is you see now, straight, and it's having trouble doing it, but you get the point. So pencil tool, we draw with it just like you would with the pencil. There's 3 modes, straighten, smooth, and ink. Moving on. Now to the, brush tool. Right below the pencil tool, looks like a paintbrush. Works very similar to the pencil tool, where if I go ahead and draw all over my stage, blah, 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 see, I have what I drew, with the exception of the fact that now I'm drawing with fill. Whatever I have here, this is interpreting it to have, to be a fill, not just a stroke. So if I go to my selection tool, it's a fill. I mean, there's nothing else I can say about that. So it behaves like a fill versus the pencil tool behaves like a stroke. Now, I'm going to go ahead and draw some stuff with my pencil really quick. Oh, and the best part about the pencil tool behaving like a stroke is that you can change the stroke size to whatever you want, and you can change the stroke style. So I can make dashed lines. Actually, I need to tone this down so you can actually see them. But I can make dashed lines with my pencil tool just by drawing to the stage. So that's really cool for creating, I don't know, like ant trails or some bug flying around type, good for drawing stuff. Very good for drawing stuff. But anyway, back to the brush tool. So I'm with my brush tool now. I'm going to go ahead and change it to a green color so you can see what I'm doing here. The brush tool has a bunch of options, a little more than the pencil tool does. But as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and show you the most important ones. First one is brush size. So I'm going to click on brush size. So I'm just going to left click and hold. And now I can change the size of my brush. So I can have a thicker brush to draw with versus a skinnier brush. And you notice the stroke size, I can't actually do anything because we're working with fill. So fill requires brush size, versus when you work with the pencil tool, you can actually change the stroke size. So going back to the brush, I just showed you how to change the brush size, and now there's brush shape. And brush shape is just used for stylizing your drawing. So if I were to go ahead, actually let me make this bigger so you can see it. If I were to go ahead and draw, actually no, I'm gonna go ahead and write. So I'm gonna write D-A-V-I-S for Mr. Davis. And you can see that looks, well, it looks, I don't know, it looks like it looks, right? But if I were to go ahead and change the shape and write the same thing, I get a much more stylized look. And you can actually change how stylized this is by, similar to the pencil tool in smoothing mode, we can actually smooth our brush at all times. So if I were to change this up and go ahead and write my name, you can see it's getting smoothed out and you're losing a lot of this this kind of style we had with that brush originally. So I'm gonna go ahead and press Control Z to undo what I just did. And I'm gonna show you one more thing on the brush tool. A couple more things. Well, one thing that has a couple parts to it. So we have brush mode. So I'm gonna go ahead, left click and hold. And you say, see right now I've been on paint normal. Paint normal, paints normal. There's nothing weird about it. There's nothing special about it. You just paint normal. The next one I'm going to show you is paint fills. And when you paint fills, all it does is when you draw on something, it'll overwrite the fills, but it'll never overwrite the strokes. So remember, my blue dashed line here is a stroke, and the green and the red is our fills. So I'm going to go ahead and scribble all over, scribble all over. You can see now that I've drawn over my stage, I've drawn over my fills, but the stroke is on top of the yellow that I've just drawn. So that's pretty much it for brush mode, or yeah, the brush tool in paint fills mode. We go to paint behind. You can only possibly imagine what it does. It's going to paint behind everything already on the screen. So you can see my fills from before and my dashed stroke from before are showing up in front of my yellow fill that I just drew. The only thing actually behind the yellow fill is the stage, and that's because the stage will always be in the background. The next one is paint selection. I'm going to go ahead and undo what I did before, and I'm going to doodle all over everything. But hey, nothing's happening. That's because it's telling me to paint selection. So I have to actually select something. So I'm going to go ahead and select this little area right here. And now I'm going to go back to my brush tool and draw. You can see now it's only drawn over the part that I had selected. It's very useful when you're trying to draw maybe, I don't know, like a sign for advertising your super cool fake sports drink in your game. Very useful for that. And the very last tool, or sorry, mode for brush mode, if I left click and hold, okay, is paint inside. The way paint inside works is that it only paints wherever I originally click. And that might be a little confusing, but it's very similar to selection mode. So if I click on the stage and draw on the stage first, you can see only the stage has been drawn on. Oops, I'm going to undo. Okay, stage, where am I at? Paint inside. Draw. You can see it drew in this part of the stage, and it actually ended up getting cut off by the fill that I had here. So this tool is a little confusing, or this mode's a little confusing, excuse me, the paint inside mode. Basically, I want to paint on this little red spot here. I'm going to click, draw around, and you can see now this shape here has been drawn on versus nothing else. So the reason why you would think that the red's all together, well, the red gets separated by all these lines everywhere, so it doesn't consider this other red to be a part of it. So a better example might be this green over here. I clicked and I started clicking on the green and drawing. Now you see, even though I've drawn over some of these other parts, the only thing that's affected is the D. And I'll show you that again. Bam. Okay. And that pretty much sums it up for the brush tool. So I just went over the pencil tool and the brush tool. The quick summary is the pencil tool behaves like a stroke. You can change the style, the width or the height, the thickness of the stroke. You can change the cap, and you can change pretty much anything you would normally for a stroke. Versus the brush paints like a fill, and if you want different size, you actually have to go under brush size and change it and paint it in. So I hope that all makes sense. This tool is pretty fun to play around with if you like drawing. So go ahead and give it a shot. Doodle something pretty. Make your parents happy. Make whoever you love happy. Make yourself happy, because that's most important. And I'll see you in the next video.